All right, without further ado, so yes, in today's presentation, how we're going through full attribution and MTA and moving beyond measurement into marginal return and bringing attribution to life with insights on who is being exposed and who is converting and how you can use those insights to make optimizations mid-flight. So we'll go through how we improved and how we validated our data so that you know that the results that we are analyzing are true and actionable. We'll go through some of the additional enhancements that are available to you as far as personas and how we can learn more about the high propensity audiences who are converting, comparing them to benchmarks, getting that marginal return, and how we can make AI optimizations. And then we'll review some of the legacy reporting interfaces, and we'll show you the new interface and what types of insights you can get. So we'd like to go through a little bit of a history of last touch to multi-touch to a new type of multi-touch true attribution that we're bringing to market and pioneering. So when we think of the early days of digital measurement, last touch attribution was an effective way to do it because people typically had one computer on a dial-up connection in their home. So when they were to see a display ad or a banner ad, as what most of the ads back in the day were comprised of, it was easy to see that journey, to see that they were exposed to a banner ad and then clicked in to make a conversion on the advertiser's website. That changed as the more types of media were available on the internet, and there were different digital touch points of advertisements that someone could be influenced by before they made that decision to visit the advertiser's website and make a purchase. So when we compare those multi-touch attribution signals, we also need to account for additional signals that might not be able to be measured. Perhaps you were on and then converted on your laptop. So there was an evolution in digital marketing around 2015 where more and more people were using smartphones. Smartphone penetration surpassed 75% of the US population in 2015. And also 4G really hit national coverage as we expanded the infrastructure, which allowed more of that digital advertisement and media consumption to take place on mobile devices rather than on your home connection on your laptop or device. So that's what changed in 2015. And what it had happened is that it made MTA measurement less effective because we aren't able to account for that user journey of going from an out-of-home advertisement on their mobile device, whether they're connected to cell data or they're using Wi-Fi at a Starbucks or another public Wi-Fi that's not their home, and then moving to those conversions. So multi-touch attribution without accounting for that mobile signal or other types of user journeys that are not trackable can make MTA less effective. And we're seeing that many aren't evolving with that lost attribution signal and how to account for it. And that's really where we're making that innovation that we don't see others in the market doing yet. So this is really where we're able to get actionable insights on multi-touch attribution. So if you can think about things like user journeys, like being exposed to an ad in your home or being exposed to an ad out of home, perhaps you're exercising or listening to an advertisement in your car or listening to a podcast in your car, those types of user journeys might not be able to be tracked. Or we can also think about the comparison of broadcast radio in comparison to podcasts. So think about it as a podcast to broadcast, but we can measure more signals that are out of home than just broadcast and more digital signals than just podcast, but we're able to get deeper insights into what's working and what's not. Because if you aren't taking that into account and applying insights into the deterministic signals that we can gather and probabilistic hybrid signals, then you may be missing out on attribution, and that could make you conclude decisions that are not as impactful, and you could lose out on return on investment. So here are some of the channels that we are able to measure, and we're able to tie that all together. And really, it's the effectiveness of our identity and device graph, which we have virtually every household in the US, as well as over 1 billion devices associated with those households, and over 5,000 pieces of information about those households, like who they are, where they are, their attitudes and behaviors, that tie it all together. So the exposure environments here, and then the digital and offline conversion environments here that we can attribute to ad exposure. So there's really 4 reasons for improved attribution. So cross-channel and multi-touch attribution. Again, when it was mostly last touch, we are moving to multi-touch as our standard attribution. So if you like your current measurement, if you're working with Claritas today and you're looking at last touch measurement, or with Arts AI, when we are able to switch over to multi-touch attribution, the new attribution methodology by default will be multi-touch, but you can still use your current measurement methodology if you like it. So let's see. So when we think about attribution, there's a difference between ascription and attribution, and we see a lot of what's occurring in the market is ascription rather than true attribution. So we did a quick definition out of ChatGPT to explore the differences between ascription and attribution. So ascription refers to assigning a characteristic or quality of an event to a person, group, or thing, often without evidence or based on assumption. Whereas attribution refers to identifying the cause or reason for an event, behavior, or outcome. It often implies a reasoned or analytical process, and it's used in marketing analytics to determine causality or responsibility. So when we look at multi-touch attribution algorithms that others apply in market, and we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the next slides, is that they're really applying ascription. So what they will do here, we can see in this representation, is they will look at the last touch and apply more weight to that last impression or last touch, and then they will decay the weight that they give to farther back impressions in time. So that's not real true multi-touch attribution, because if we look at this example here, where we see these 2 impression touch points, where it could be a small banner that was last touch and the podcast that was immediately preceding it, we understand that that podcast advertisement is much more impactful. So we have to understand the differential weight to apply to really get the true weighting to all of those touch points. So you can imagine here, we've got different user journeys. What we did was we employed and got our internal users, external partners, media owners, engaged college students to all ground truth our user journeys, which led to improved attribution accuracy, because we understand what we are and are not able to track. So we would track the ad exposures with our tags, and then we would have a source of truth of entering your email addresses, what types of devices you're on, and then move to a conversion to track all of that. So we've got IP addresses to timestamps of conversions and impressions to tie them all together. And then we tested out different scenarios. So myself, I would get on a VPN or on my home Wi-Fi or exposed at my office versus at home, test it out in the car, test it out at a coffee shop, and to observe all of those signals that we are and are not able to track. And what we discovered is that we are able to track most of those journeys. So, but even though we are able to track most of that, there is still lost signal, and we need to recover it, because lost attribution signal may show a smaller return on investment and may conclude too loss of where you can make improvements. So there's different journeys that are easy to track. So most straightforward, you are exposed to an ad on your laptop at home, and then you make a purchase on that same laptop in that same browser at home. What we are able to do is track that directly deterministically, or using the Claritas graph, we are able to measure that and provide insights on who was exposed and who converted. And one thing about our identity and device graph is that it allows us to track cross-device activity. Being exposed on your phone and converting on a laptop or vice versa is very important, especially when we look at digital advertisements that are not display or something to click into. Think of an audio advertisement. There's nothing to click in audio, you're listening. So the exposure event takes place with different device characteristics and different environments than that purchase or conversion event. So you need to have a robust and accurate identity and device graph. So Claritas enables that. And we go beyond that too. And then here you can see harder to attribute podcast via cell connection on iOS and converting on a different device. So we can recover that signal by everything that we've observed over past analysis of hundreds of campaigns and looking forward. So if you're interested in some of the equations and involved in that, you can see that here. And again, we will have the recording available for you to review this, but this accounts for that lost signal recovery that we can add to the full picture of what's working and what's not. So we also observed a lost attribution signal in a real life scenario. So Rex Briggs, working with the MMA, he's the subject matter expert in marketing analytics with the MMA, and had done a case study with Google for the MLB. So Google said, and the MLB said that our attribution results were higher than what Google was reporting. So we looked into it further. We asked for some share of data, and we discovered that the Google Open Web only counted 1 out of 3 attributable conversions. So in order to see what's going on here, kind of peel back the layers to see what happened where there was lost attribution, is there's a simple test that we can apply that's similar in epidemiology to see what is causality. And that's a random duplication test, or in marketing, an odds ratio test. And what we're doing is we're looking at the reach of the campaign times the total conversions within the look back window that you're measuring. And if you have an odds ratio of less than 1, that means lost attribution. So this is what we observed here, is this lost attribution here that equates to a potential loss of budget. Claritas is able to account for that. So you can apply this odds ratio yourself when you're looking at any measurement that you are undergoing. Simply understand the reach and times the total conversions. And if it's less than 1, then there's missed signal that you're not accounting for. In our case, when we're measuring incrementality, anything above that 1 is the incremental impact of the campaign. So just further exploring the odds ratio, what we're looking at is all conversions that occurred that were not attributed, and then we're looking at the reach of the campaign. And we'll have some white papers on this. You can look into this further. We'll share those with you. And if you are interested in learning more, reach out to your account manager. You can reach out to myself, and we'll get you connected to more information about that. So we have detailed calculations as well. So then moving into more improved attribution, the third area is deterministic attribution and probabilistic attribution combination. So we recently acquired Arts AI, and their robust probabilistic attribution model was built into best in breed and best in class between the Claritas, household, and deterministic models. So that combining those methods makes a more robust solution. And also what we do is we remove invalid traffic, so bot traffic, and combine that all together. So we go for a deterministic and a probabilistic and a household-based framework to really ensure that there's no loss of signal, that you're getting a robust, deep, accurate analysis of all data available. So we can give you more information on this. Happy to go into one-on-one if you'd like to go in depth on our waterfall methodology, how we combine the solutions to ensure that nothing is missed. And another reason for improved attribution is to ensure, again, with MTA, is that we are tracking all of that cross-channel attribution. Think of it as podcast to broadcast and true multi-touch attribution. So this slide here represents what we are able to do in broadcast. This could be linear television as well, but out-of-home signals that aren't digitally tracked. We're able to track the conversion activity. We're able to understand where the exposures occurred and apply our models to those conversions to understand what's occurring in broadcast in a digital fashion. That way we can combine broadcast and podcast and digital together in one analysis, so you get the full picture of that true multi-touch attribution. We have a white paper on this as well that we can share with you. And so in summary, we've made those advancements to true multi-touch attribution, accounting for that ground truthing and journey truthing of the user journeys to account for any gaps in the data. We're applying that true MTA incrementality, and we're giving you more insights on, and this is what we'll talk about in these next few slides, is how we're going beyond just the measurement into diminishing returns, marginal return analysis, where you can look for additional insights in how to make optimizations mid-flight. So how we go to bring attribution to life. So when we think about bringing attribution to life, we are thinking about marketers' questions that are, am I reaching my target effectively, and what kinds of people are most likely to convert? So rather than just looking at the numbers of what had occurred, how many impressions were served, and how many attributable conversions, we want to understand who. So who do we reach and who converted? So in this slide, we can see that we are tracking conversion data on a website, let's say, or an app. We are able to take that conversion data, layer it into our identity graph, and tell you who is converting. So with Claritas Prism segmentation, the US population is divided into 68 different segments. Each are about 1% to 2% of the total population, so evenly divided across the whole US, and they are in different life stage groups, typically sorted by socioeconomic status, and also different geographies, behaviors, attitudes, to give you cohorts of audiences and groups that behave similarly, so you can understand who is your best customer. So here, if we analyze who buys through Claritas Prism personas, we can see that it's highly weighted to these first segments, which are more affluent. So in this case, this was a high-end consumer electronic company where the products that they sell are in the thousands of dollars. So we see that it is highly ranked in the upper parts of the socioeconomic spectrum. And we can tell you more about that. So going beyond just just the counts of those people, but going into more details. So we'll provide you with personas. You can see who is buying, and then you can actually have a conversation with a representation of that persona. And again, it's backed by the identity graph of Claritas that has over 5,000 different data points that are feeding that model or that persona of who is most likely to convert. So you can have a panel. You can ask the panel questions of who the best represented audiences are who are engaging with the advertiser's products or services. So here we have a networked neighbor, typically middle-aged with family, and has a Tesla perhaps, and you can keep that conversation going. And we can combine the segments into a representation. So this helps with different user stories and marketing guides to help you understand who's engaging and how to reach them and where to reach them. So you can play with that. We'll also show you through the analysis who is converting based on advertising influence. So you can see based on these prism segments. So you can see the darker orange is the most likely to convert, and by index too. So we can see the number of impressions served to each audience and the attributable conversion. So you can see that conversion indexed by that segment. So we'll get into this further. So yeah, so you can see the top 5 sources of website visits. So you can decompose it and break it down further to understand. Here in this case, the top 5 are Pickup Patriarchs, American Dream, Second City Startups, Pools and Patios, and Beltway Boomers. So this comprises 50 to 60% of your most likely to convert audiences. You can also get down deeper into the top 10, which can comprise more than 40%, and then see where those prism segments are across the most likely to convert. You can look at even more details about the demographics, the lifestyle attributes, community-oriented, tech-adaptive, key behaviors, right? These will help you understand. And yeah, cultural markers, it's all the full picture. So you can see, again, here's a representation. So lots of rich insights. You can bring this into executive briefings to help your team understand where to market, who to market to. And here's interesting. So you can also see where you're currently gaining conversions. So this is based on the attributable conversions based on a campaign. And then you can also see where there's opportunity across some of these audiences to get more conversions. So if you sort that conversion to impression index, you'll see where there's opportunity where you might not be advertising to those audiences, and they might be a small part of your mix of who you're targeting. So we can find those opportunities to increase your impact. So for example, the persona analysis that we will provide you with too, so you can start playing with, experimenting. We provide you these tools now so you can look into where you can make audience optimizations. So here you can see, if we look at this large portion of the buy in this media mix of this campaign, a lot of it was streaming, perhaps a billion impressions served there. We can have our AI automatically convert the performance there into a buy and show you what to increase in the buy and what zip codes to deliver. So we can deliver you those zip codes and audiences of where you can target to get an 11% increase, almost 11% in this case. And further, we can do it on smaller portions of your buy. So if we just look at this section of the buy, which was podcast here, if we were to make those optimizations and deliver those to you, you can expect in this case, a 19.5% increase. So it's good insights and it's easy to execute. We can give you those insights to go then take it to an execution. And we can also have our AI perform those executions for you too. And we'll talk about that in some of these next slides. But yeah, here you can see also the performance by media owner. And you can also adjust the message by media owner based on those segments, because perhaps here we can see, for example, the networked neighbor segment is over-indexing highly with this media owner. So they're indexed in that segment, and that's where you can find them. So if you've got a high-performing segment, then you can find a media owner where that ad is resonating well with those audiences within that media owner's listenership or viewership. So moving on to the next part of bringing attribution to life. So we've talked about the audience insights and understanding who is converting and who is exposed. But not only that, we want to go beyond the rear view mirror into the marginal return. So is my campaign working? We get that from the rear view mirror analysis of what's working and what's not. But where should you spend the next dollar for the highest impact? And that's what we are looking to answer with our marginal return analysis. So let's walk through an example or building to the marginal return analysis to see what conversion results look like without return on ad spend, with return on ad spend, and then how we go even beyond that. So in this example, if you look at the table at the top, this is a simple creative A versus creative B analysis. So we can see the number of impressions served to each was roughly the same. And then we see that the events on this advertiser's website that are attributed to those impressions, we can see roughly the same as far as visits. And then we get down to checkout complete. We see that creative B outperformed creative A in attributable conversions, 1,000 compared to 890. So if you were to stop just at attribution, you may conclude that creative B is outperforming creative A. But when we layer in our lift and incrementality, where we compare the exposed group to an exact lookalike control group to tease out and isolate the incremental performance, what we're seeing is the opposite, that actually creative A is driving 534 incremental conversions that wouldn't have happened. So, basically we're saying that out of these 1,000 for attributed to creative B, roughly 800 may have occurred regardless of whether or not the campaign was conducted. That's due to people who are already converting, the organic traffic, influence of media and other channels, and so on. So really conducting that incremental impact is important to understand when you're doing that test versus control experiment group to isolate incrementality. We see that creative A is much more impactful than creative B. But then when we layer in down here, when we start to move to conversion data with return on ad spend, then we see which is really moving the needle and which is giving you the most bang for your buck, right? So we can look at a similar scenario where we have 4 different variations of a creative, and we see that creative 728 by 90 is driving a 60.5% lift in purchases. So similarly here, yep, we would say that that's the highest converting, but this creative was more expensive. It's 74% more expensive for the media CPMs than this 320 by 50. So when we understand the cost of media and layer that into a return on investment, really what we see, even though this was the highest lift, really the most bang for your buck is this 320 by 50 creative that drove a 200 index on return on investment. So that's where we would say that's most effective. But return on ad spend is not yet actionable, because what we are measuring with return on ad spend in the rear view mirror is what had occurred, not what will occur next if you continue to run ads in these channels. So you need to know saturation levels. So if you've already exposed an audience or a certain channel, they've already responded to the ad, or they may not be responding to the ad. So the marginal return that you will get at the saturation levels are going to decrease over time. And that's what we want to represent here, is the marginal return analysis and where you are on the diminishing returns curve. So we have this line here, this red line, that represents where the marginal return drops off by more than 10% as you add incremental frequency. So you want to stay in the sweet spot of the saturation curve. So here we can see on the left, we are at a frequency of about 4. So you can imagine if you increase it to, let's say 8, frequency of 8, you're going to double the impact. Whereas over here on the right, you're all the way over here in the past the point of diminishing return, where if you increase the frequency by just 4 more, you're barely going to be moving the needle. So you need to understand what will happen next in order to optimize. So let's kind of recap that a little bit. So here we have, simple conversion rate. You've got this placement 80, where you see it has the highest conversion rate. But when you continue to layer in the cost per action, you actually see that placement 79 has the lowest cost per action, which is where you would want to increase your bang for your buck, but then layering in that cost per action and marginal cost per action, you see something different. You see actually placement 78 with a marginal cost per action. How much is it going to cost to drive a conversion for the next ad is the lowest at 127. So placement 78 and 80. These are pretty close in performance, but here you see the marginal cost to drive an additional conversion is very high for 79. So we want you to be able to make decisions live for your campaigns. It's fine if you're looking at a campaign that has been completed, then you can look at those CPAs and you can look at them in aggregate and average. But we really want to provide you with in-flight campaign insights where you can use the data to make decisions about your next decision on where to buy, because you will get marginal impact. You'll increase your return on ad spend in flight, and that's what's important. So by using this rich analysis and marginal return on your campaign performance, you can get value and return on ad spend, more revenue in flight. And that's really what we're doing, is wanting you to use the analytics to get value back. So here's a snapshot of some reporting here at the bottom of the types of insights that we expect to deliver in Q1, where you can see the mix of impressions, conversion rates, CPA, marginal CPA, reach and frequency. And also what we're doing too is we want to get a pure look at the normalized conversions so that we can really understand what's happening in, let's say you're looking at frequency between 2 or 3 here. Let's zoom in and normalize that data so you can really see what's happening. So if you were to look at it in more of a straight line, you might think that perhaps the blue is performing best. But when we normalize that data, we'll provide this too, where we want to see which has the steepest line. So in this case, the red placement between frequency of 1 and 2 is your sweet spot, where that's where you would want to focus on that steeper curve for more marginal returns and normalized. So we give you that normalized view as well. So it's really deep in the insights. We'll have white papers on these available now. So you can see these two versions, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is representing what you might be doing wrong with your analysis and how you might be losing out on return on ad spend, and then how to do it right. So these are available now. So reach out to myself or your account manager or your sales representative, and we can send these white papers to you. And this will help you become smarter. You may have feedback on these white papers if there's something that you want to add, if there's something that you think is maybe a little bit misleading, or how we can help you as marketers become smarter and get some value right away by just learning more about how to do it right, and how hopefully you'll find that the Claritas analytics will give you what you need to become smarter about where to make investments. So here are some of the types of reporting here. So you can see the attribution reporting. We'll give you cost calculations in here. We'll show you the incremental impact, the marginal returns, and then what we'll be discussing here on the next few slides is optimizations that you can automate. So how do I go beyond the rear view mirror? How do I optimize? This is a very important section for us as well. So not only are we saying what happened in the past, how can we use the insights to see where to spend the next dollar for highest impact, but how do I automate it and leverage AI to give us the automatic optimizations that are going to help you to do it in real time to really squeeze out higher incrementality. So here, what we're presenting here are 3 different types of optimizations. So audience optimization, message optimization, and media optimization. So you can see these here. So beyond baseline, if you're turning on the audience optimization, you can expect this much incremental impact of 2.5%. The message optimization increases that incrementality by 9.8%, and turning on media optimization increases it further by 1.5%. And we'll go through a bit of each of these. And also we're showing here that there's additional opportunity in other channels that you may not be advertising in that you can expand your media buy. So perhaps you're advertising in podcast and you want to expand to streaming or vice versa. It's a good way to say, okay, here's your performance among the audiences and among the channels and areas in streaming. How can I find those audiences in podcast that you're not yet advertising in, and help you to see where you can have even more of an impact? So the first one, audience optimization. So here you can see on the right side how we're doing some audience optimization here. So within your media buy, and within the audiences that you're targeting, we can split the audiences into two lines, about an 80-20 split, where the 80 will be optimized based on which audiences are trying to best perform, and the 20 will be the kind of business as usual audiences. So what we'll do is we'll make those optimizations each week. So we can see here the dark blue line is the performance of the optimized audience compared to the unoptimized audience. So when we do this as well, you don't have to change your media buy at all. It can stay within the same media buy, and we will make optimizations, micro kind of optimizations you can think of within the target audiences that you're reaching to give you that incremental impact. So here we see a 19.5% increase just by using an optimization within the audience that you're targeting. You don't have to change the buy. And that 20% that is still not being optimized automatically, that is still important for opportunities to learn, because there may be some growth in those audiences. There's changing dynamics that where we can observe those, learn from those, and squeeze out even more incrementality. So we do that, make those optimizations by week. We'll provide the weekly optimizations and also the average annual or actualized lift. So across the aggregate of the campaign, maybe we're squeezing out 13.1% here in this case study. Also, we have message optimization. So here you can see the message optimization in the middle here has a much larger impact because it leverages variations of different types of creatives, and the AI will choose in real time dynamically which variation of that creative resonates best, and that results in higher impact. So what you would do is perhaps you could have 100 different versions of a creative. It goes beyond simple dynamic creative optimization, where you're just saying, okay, creative A performed better than creative B, let's move more spend to creative A. It's really variations of creatives at different times of day with different audiences in different mediums that show to resonate best. And the AI is learning, hey, there's some correlation with the time of day or something that is outside of the campaign's influence that would say, hey, serve this ad because this is performing best. So we're looking for all of those optimizations among various creatives. So whether it be the different taglines, different calls to actions, different background images, different videos, different audio snippets, to just continue to optimize and return on that. So here we see a 28.2% when we turn on that message optimization. And then finally, we have the media optimization. So this section here. So what we'll do is get a list of the media that you buy. We can, as we're measuring it directly, we can see where you're buying, and we can also see where you have not bought yet and where you should buy that most likely leads to a conversion. So when we've done these tests, we see a 10 to 15 up to 20% increase in performance. So it shows you where to find those high converting audiences. So we think there's a particular opportunity in podcast first, especially we can do the true multi-touch cross-channel attribution. We can help bring investment into podcast by saying, oh, hey, I see performing audiences in this performance of this campaign, but I have not yet reached these audiences, and I know that they are perhaps listening to the Hidden Brain podcast. So we can help you find out where to make those buys and how much to buy for the biggest impact when you look at your marginal return. How much should you buy in those channels? So helping to, and then also within, let's say it's within the podcast channel, you're advertising in one and you want to find those moving marginal returns within those audiences, within those different podcasts, then you can do that too. So it really helps to distribute and really find those high converting audiences across the different media that you buy. And yeah, so I'll ask, here again, and then we can open up to QA is imagine if you can bring the attribution to life. So not just the numbers, not just impressions and attributable conversions and lift, but who is exposed and who's converting, what personas, what kinds of questions do you have for those personas? Where do you find those audiences? What are they resonating with? And also going beyond the rearview mirror into the marginal return analysis of where you can find the upside of what's the next move for the biggest bang for your buck. How can you use the insights to actually get value back? So to get a higher return on ad spend, instead of saying, here's what had occurred, let's get value back now through the analysis. So I'll open it up to some questions, and yeah, we're happy to field anything that you might have. So I think Court was getting some questions from the chat, and just let me know.
Yeah, awesome updates, Aaron. Thank you. That was great from start to finish. So appreciate that walkthrough. We do have a few questions. One is there a learning curve for transitioning to the new tools, and how are we supporting clients during that change?
That's a great question. So there is a learning curve where I'll mention again, like if you still like the insights that you have, you can continue to access those insights. And we'll also show you in parallel the new types of insights. And we'll show you how to interpret them. So we have many white papers. We have some quick start guides. You have dedicated account managers as well. So reach out to me, reach out to your account manager or your sales representative, and we can provide you with that documentation on how to do attribution right, things that you might be thinking about, explaining the concepts. We have deep dives on methodology as well. So if you want to peel back further layers to understand what we're doing and how we're doing it, we have some really deep dive methodology documentation, as well as we can host one-on-one sessions with you. And your account managers will also be conducting trainings. We'll have these webinars available. We've got a whole body of material that you can access for your resources, and we'll bring you along the way as we start to introduce more of these insights. So yeah, absolutely, reach out to us. Happy to have one-on-ones and to provide you with more material. And yeah, we're looking forward to not only training you, but listening to your feedback, because we're going to continue to evolve this solution. So any insights that or ideas that you might have, yeah, we're open ears.
Okay, great. Another one's, can you elaborate on the beta testing opportunities for the new reporting features and how clients can participate?
Yes, love beta opportunities, especially if you're very engaged and want to give us some of that feedback and insights and ideas that you have. Yep, engage your Claritas account manager or sales rep, or reach out to me directly, and we can get you started with that.
Great. Another one, how can clients leverage the new persona insights for upcoming campaigns? You might have mentioned that. You talked about it a little bit, but if you could elaborate on that a little more.
Yeah, persona insights. Yeah, for upcoming campaigns, that's great. If you help us to understand your planning, we have planning tools available. Kind of Claritas's core businesses in the audience insights through various prism segmentation or what have you. So definitely reach out to us. We can help you to identify which campaigns and which audiences and where to find them would work best. Claritas audience data, like prism segmentation data, for example, is in virtually every DSP. So you can directly target those audiences, helping you understand which audiences have the highest propensity to convert and where to reach them. And then if you'd like, you can pull those audiences off the shelf in the DSP to be highly targeted, or we can even create a custom audience for you to deliver on, and we can help you with that planning and execution of those campaigns.
You actually addressed this a couple questions ago a little bit, but expand on the additional resources that are available for clients who want a deeper dive into the methodology, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So this webinar is one, so we'll send the recording out right after this. We've got a two white papers on how to do attribution correctly. We've got deep dive methodologies. I think we have like about a 35-page deep dive methodological document. We will have a series of videos, podcasts, resource guides. We will have a support portal. We will also have a chat that you can use to ask questions. And yeah, of course, you're a dedicated account manager.
And we can, as Aaron mentioned, we can provide some of that information in the follow-up email with the recording. We have a resource portal that is full of everything from thought leadership to methodology documentation to videos to case studies, and it's solely focused on the stuff that Aaron walked through today. So we'll include that in the follow-up. One more, within the new platform, will there be better insights into how tags are working to better validate results over time?
Yeah, that's a great call out into some of the actual mechanics of, hey, how do we set up and get our campaign off the ground and ensure that everything's working. So kind of like more of the nitty gritty tactical things. We've got a ton of insights on that. We have uh, invalid traffic monitoring, bot traffic monitoring, flags to ensure that if any impressions drop off or haven't started when you expect them to start, or if the perhaps if the IP addresses aren't being gathered appropriately or we're missing data, we'll have a check on all of that. These are self-service tools as well as our account managers are in there checking things out along the way too. So everything that you can do to monitor campaign health will be in the platform. You can create your own tags. You can create your own pixels. You can either do it in the user interface. We have the ability for you to bulk upload placements if you would like, and then download those tags with guides on how to implement them on a website or in an app, or guides for how to help your ad ops team append those tags to the media within the ad servers, what kinds of configurations are needed depending on what you'd like to get back. Everything is made to be all self-service if you would like it to be. And again, yeah, we have your dedicated account managers, but you can set campaigns up yourself and you can pull the reporting in the platform as well as pull it out of the platform to get aggregated data or deep granular kind of line by line data if you want. And yeah, all types of reports to see impression pacing and whether or not there are any things to kind of optimize in how the tags are placed.
Perfect. That's great. Well, thank you again. That's all the questions that we had. But Aaron, thanks again. Tremendous walkthrough today, and thank you all for joining. We're really excited about the momentum that these measurement and AI solutions are gaining, and we would love to be able to consult with you on how we might be able to help you leverage them for your business. As mentioned, we will follow up with today's recording along with more information on ways to connect with us if you're interested in scheduling some time to discuss. So once again, thank you. We'll see you later.
Thank you very much.